put this really quickly in slideshow, and we will get started. So as Zita said, and thank you for those really, really lovely, kind words. It was a very generous introduction. I'm here today to talk about AI trends in marketing academic journals. So for those of you whom I haven't met before, I lead the marketing and customer experience practice at Clark and Esposito. We work on what I like to call the strategy and engine of marketing. That is transformation, marketing technology, branding and messaging, marketing operations, analytics, the things that make a marketing department hum. I have a very strong belief that marketing is very, very important to our industry, perhaps historically undervalued. And I think we're at a really, really exciting turning point in the marketing profession. And it's a really, really great time to be a consultant. And I'm the former chief marketing officer for Oxford University Press's academic division, where I oversaw marketing, our data and analytics function, and digital strategy. So we'll talk today a little bit of an introduction to AI. I am certainly not a AI programmer or expert, but my best understanding of kind of simplifying how I see AI, some general publishing use cases. We'll talk a little bit about how AI is used in marketing, and we'll get into some specifics of marketing and AI in our industry, academic journals, and then a little bit of like where to start. And then hopefully there'll be plenty of time for questions. So what is AI? It's basically systems that mimic human intelligence and cognitive function. They're helping us with problem solving, decision making, learning, speech and image recognition. Typically, when we talk about AI, we think of it as concentric circles, like the image on the right. AI is a broad category. It includes things like robotics, for example. But really, as it pertains to the use cases we're most interested in, it's usually either machine learning, which is really machines looking at tasks and code-based rules and automation and logic. And then deep learning, where we're getting into machines mimicking neural networks in our brain. And, there are two main concepts that I like to sort of bring to the table. The first is sort of a large language model. And these are training sets of vast amounts of data, right? ChatGPT is using, for example, a large learning model from web-based queries, content that they can access that are open and freely accessible. And they are built on what we call neural networks. And neural networks basically take in inputs of data, usually tokenized, and they're putting sort of weights and thresholds against the piece of data to validate that something is or isn't something, and then they're next moving to the next piece of data. And through all of this, they're kind of having cognitive recognition, right? The word pool in this context is talking about swimming. Okay, it's a swimming pool. It's not the billiards game pool, right? It's pieces of logic that are mimicking the way our brains work in how we decipher information. And there are, in the world of LLMs, general purpose LLMs and domain specific LLMs. General purpose LLMs have like large swaths of data. Domain specific are trained on a specific corpus. So I asked Bard AI what it was, and it told us that it is a general sort of LLM. And it was very specific to say that if you're looking about a medical query, you're probably better off looking at a domain specific medical LLM that's trained on medical data. And in our industry, you've probably seen Hum, a product that is created, a product called Lodestone that is creating an LLM across long form research content, right? So we've got general purpose LLMs and domain specific LLMs. And in general, AI is really as complicated as it's as simple as it's inputting and reading data, text, numbers, images, etc. It is through that data recognizing patterns. It's then using those neural networks to make connections to really predict, right? Patterns are saying, I noticed this, these connections, therefore it's this. Predicting is going beyond just the patterns. And then it's connecting to expert systems to perform some kind of task. So in terms of what we're seeing in, before we get to marketing specific across our industry, so we are trying to use AI to improve author and reader experience. So there are tools out there now that are assisting authors in writing to allow them to focus on the research. That could be English languaging services. It could be sort of construction services. You see on the right some examples of 2 products in our industry that are doing that. We are grappling with the challenge of what does it mean when our content, our journal content, is being ingested and used in large language models around the world. What does this mean for copyright law around open access? How are we as publishers going to be remunerated? Currently, a lot of OA journals content, because of our CC BY license, is being used in LLMs with no route to monetization for publishers. So this is a sort of big existential issue that has to be grappled with, as is the next one. What are the policies and ethics around content generation for peer-reviewed content? It's one thing to use generative AI to create marketing copy. It's another thing to create a peer-reviewed article. What are we going to allow? How far will we allow authors to use these types of tools? There's a lot of advancement in accessibility, things like vision and speech recognition, text to audio, text to image, which I think is really exciting. I think we all want to make our products much more accessible, and it's been challenging and expensive to do so. AI should help greatly. And outside of our industry, but I think really fun, book publishers are experimenting with conversational books. So you can read Frankenstein and ask the AI what Mary Shelley was thinking. Was Frankenstein good? Was Frankenstein evil? Whatever you might want to ask. They've thought about sort of the training question model that goes around books. You can imagine that potentially coming to our industry. AI being used for workflow optimization. Maybe we can automatically transfer rejected authors into something that's in our sort of transfer flow, our cascades. Automations in author submission and peer review processes. AI could maybe look for ethical review or sort of basic issues like a first line review, maybe proofreading, maybe compliance with funding mandates, maybe finding flaws in data analysis, plagiarism checks, auto-generated keywords. And there's even tools now to help find patterns in research fraud. If there's a particular editor who keeps approving a certain set of authors, might that indicate some sort of research fraud? AI is being used to improve discoverability. Improvements to image discovery. Facebook's Meta, that's the image on the right, has built an AI algorithm that can look at an image and it can kind of decode it and tell you sort of what it is. Same is happening for multimedia. One of the challenges we have is images and multimedia aren't often tagged with the same robustness as sort of the core article content. AI could help with those kind of tags so that images and multimedia can be more discoverable. AI search. I think there's 2 things here. One is increasingly people are going to be searching with their voice. They're not going to maybe be using traditional search engines. They may be using search engines that are bringing in AI. And Google's new search generative experience is set that when you Google something, you're not just going to get the link, you're actually going to get the whole answer. We see some of that now, we see snippets of it, but this is really going to be when you ask Google a question, you may not need to go to the article, you may not need to go to the website, the answer will be fully exposed from the AI. And then certainly approved article and kind of concept tagging, which we'll talk more about in the marketing section. And then lastly, it's beyond just the realm of what we do as publishers, but how the research that we help produce can improve the world. The New England Journal of Medicine has a whole podcast and is putting a lot of investment around AI trends in medicine. You can imagine if we can sort of better connect research across journals and all the brilliant scientists in the world, there'll be more connections and more innovation and more reproducibility. Research is still quite a siloed activity. We're not making those kind of connections. And then there's AI tools. I think BMJ's impact analysis is really cool, where they're not just looking at impact in terms of citation analysis, but how do the articles in BMJ go in to be part of health policy? How do they go on to be part of clinical trials? How is research really improving the world? And that this is certainly not the only, these are not the only things that are happening in publishing, but these are some of the major ones that I'm seeing. And it's really just the early days. And now we'll kind of pivot a little bit to the meat of the presentation, AI in marketing. So 61.4% of marketers have already used AI in their marketing activities. Don't know how many of you are already using AI. 63% are planning to invest in the next 24 months. This was a survey done a couple months ago. And slightly more than half of the respondents see greater reward than risk in generative AI. I think what's interesting in that statistic is 44%. There's some fear, there's some trepidation in the marketing field. And again, AI has been used for many years in marketing. I would argue marketing has probably been on the vanguard of AI. Things like lead identification, A/B testing, many of the things we'll talk about in today's presentation have been going on for 15 years in marketing. Maybe not as present in our industry, but certainly in other industries. I would say e-commerce is a really good example of where AI has been really fervent. All you have to do is shop on Amazon to see AI in action. But what's really changed in the last 12 months has been generative AI. ChatGPT, Dolly, and others, the ability that we can have AI write copy for us, that we can have AI create images for us, that we can have AI create multimedia for us, has really only started to gain momentum at the tail end of 2022 and has been the story in 2023 and will continue in 2024. And that's poised to bring lots of change to the marketing profession. And in fact, Gartner predicts that by 2026, which is only really 2 years away now almost, 80% of organizations will be using generative AI API models or applications. Today, that's 5%, right? We are at the infancy in generative AI, but it's poised to take off really very quickly. And so why do marketers want to use AI? And, these are probably obvious, but I think it's always really important to focus on the benefits. So better decision making. We sometimes have we always have a lot of data in marketing, and it can be difficult to make decisions. We want to improve our customer and audience intelligence. We want to improve our marketing and performance. We want to improve our just customer experience. We want to create scalability in processes and workflows. And we're looking for cost and time savings. So what I'm going to do now is just talk about a couple of trends in AI in marketing, and then we'll talk about some applications in our industry. So the first is extracting meaning from content. We have a lot of content. And one of the things AI can be through natural language processing is computer read, is the way I would phrase it, our content. And it can look at the keywords in an article, in an abstract, in a marketing blog article, could be a research article, and it can start to pull out the topics and concepts in that. It can identify parts of speech. It can understand the relationships between words, and it can even detect sentiment. And it's looking at sort of relationships, topics, concepts. And once we do that, when a human being is engaging with that piece of content, we can understand more about what that human being is interested in. So we've got an article and we've pulled out, let's say it's about sort of, it looks like this example here is Albert Einstein. So he has looked at articles that the machine has tagged as physics, theory of light, relativity, special relativity, and this is a screenshot from Hum. But in essence, and this is a screenshot for another CDP, in essence, this is what these tools are trying to do with behavioral data. If we can classify the articles and we can collect the clicks, the views, the scrolls, the downloads that a human being is doing with that piece of content, we know not just that they've clicked on article X, but article X was about Y and Z. And then we can see all of the campaigns and all of the articles they've connected with, and we can start to discern what they're interested in. And we're seeing this play out a lot in our industry. So this machine reading and automatically applying keywords tends to be much better than author-provided keywords. For many organizations, their taxonomy may go down 1 or 2 levels. Author keywords may not be deep enough. Maybe they can only hold 10 keywords. There's no real limit here, right? The tools are constantly adding the keywords and adding intelligence so that keywords are really kind of dynamic, which also can help with search and discovery. They can connect topics to concepts. The best example I would give here is if you start to see symptoms for a particular disease, without an article even containing the name of the disease, the tool's smart enough to make those connections. As I said before, engagement, we're starting to see marketing teams understand who is engaging with content that has been tagged as author resources or author instruction pages. So we can start to understand those people visiting our sites who seem to be interested in publishing with us. We're starting to move from blunt personas and blunt segmentation to much more micro segmentation around those topics. Show me people who visit author instruction pages that are interested in mice DNA. Whatever the topic may be, something really quite finite and specific. And then, we're using this data to try to understand where to publish. So maybe there's a lot of traffic going to a particular topic. We'll just use my mice DNA. But actually, you don't have a lot of content on the topic. Perhaps that is a candidate for a special issue or a new collection. We're also trying to understand kind of patterns. What kind of content marketing is resonating with early career researchers? This can help us understand what to produce more of, what to produce less of. And, we work with clients today that are doing all of these things. From this, we're looking at hyper-targeting, predictive models, and personalization. So this, again, AI can start to recognize these patterns and help us create segments. Some of those segments we're manually creating as marketers based on the tags and the data we collected. But many tools are actually creating segments for us based on this information. They're seeing what people are doing and automatically segmenting them. There's also the whole realm of predictive models. We're used to these probably in the consumer world. Likelihood to purchase, likelihood to churn. Anybody subscribe to a magazine and you don't read the articles in a while? And you start to get super wonderful, engaging emails trying to get you back. It's because some predictive model has said, Colleen is a subscriber. She's not been engaging. She's likely to not renew. She's going to churn. Do everything you can to bring her back into the fold because it's cheaper to retain Colleen, to have Colleen renew than to find another Colleen, right? And so, same thing with propensity to purchase. This person has shown enough signals that I think that they're going to potentially be a customer for whatever I'm selling. Lookalike models. That's when we define maybe our ideal customer profile and we ask the database, all the data you have about these beautiful, wonderful, loyal, high spending customers. Find me people in my database that look like them, that share characteristics, that share attributes, so that I can market to them. Next best action. What is the marketing message I should send? What is the offer? What is the channel? Predictive models can help do that, what time to send it. And then lead identification and kind of that business to business kind of context. What leads are likely to be most valuable? And then with AI, businesses can also personalize based on all of this information. I'm sure you've all gone to a website where you see a sort of personalized message for you. That's all sort of triggered by AI. And probably the most prolific example of this is recommendation. We tend to use Netflix or Amazon as the example, but that's all AI. Content recommendations at their most basic form are using historical patterns. So they're saying in the case of House of Cards, as I see at top, what this person seems to like shows like House of Cards. House of Cards is a political drama. You know, what other political dramas do we have? That is its most basic level. But what collaborative filtering does is it brings in who else is looking at House of Cards, who else is watching it, what else are they interested in? I'm noticing that people that are interested in political dramas are also interested in thrillers. Let me show them thrillers. So collaborative filtering is bringing in not just my historical behavior, but what people like me are doing. And that's the basis for most of the e-commerce and media recommendations you see. So what are we seeing in scholarly publishing? Again, we're seeing lots of clients doing all of this. They're really starting to hyper target. They're, you know, as opposed to targeting at the maybe level 1 in your taxonomy before, they're able to target at the level of a special issue or a collection, really micro target. They're able to look at their full society. And what I mean here is a lot of scholarly publishers sit within a society. The publishing arm is part of an association, a society, and they're able to look at the full intelligence from the society, membership status, event attendance, etc., to help really refine targeting. They're able to recognize a user when they're on the site, the journal site, who's not authenticated, hasn't signed in. About a research and publish or subscribe to open deal that may be interesting to that individual. And part of what AI is helping doing is identity stitch. So they can help us understand by connecting data a larger percentage of our anonymous visitors, right? But they can also recognize, even if someone's not authenticated, that that person is from Oxford University or Cambridge University. And so we can start to kind of hyper target. We're seeing people start to build propensity models to find authors that are likely to publish an X topic. We are seeing publishers think about models, I mentioned this before, to find bad actors in research fraud based on sort of pattern recognition. We are seeing a lot of people think about what messages will work best to convert an author. And I think probably all of you do this today, but time optimized sending, right? We can do that in email vendors, but obviously that is also a part of AI, and it's a predictive model. It's a predictive model based on your historic patterns, right? Zeta opens her emails typically in the morning, right? Dana opens her emails typically in the afternoon. Whatever it is, that's a form of historical pattern recognition. Personalization and real-time recommendation. To a certain extent, that's what TrendMD does, that many of us have on our platforms. There are tools now that are doing that much more refined for publishers. And you can include those recommendations on journal platforms and in your emails. And then they're personally messaging. Today, the majority of marketing for a journal is at a journal level. And what I mean by that is, if you're looking for a special issue on mice DNA, that ad is likely going to be placed on the journal where that collection will sort of sit. Maybe you'd put it on a cross topical collection page. In the world of AI, that ad appears wherever in your ecosystem the user is. Any journal page, could be on your blog, could be on your society's website. The AI is able to recognize the human being that has the propensity, the likelihood that's in the segment that should see that message. So you're targeting at the individual level, not the content level, right? And most of what historically marketing has been in scholarly communication has been at the content level. I want to place an ad on this journal. I want to place an ad on this article page. I want to place an ad where the keywords are XYZ. And that's fine. But what AI allows us to do is I want to find the human being who's interested on this, and I want to place it on any web page that they're visiting. And omni-channel journeys. This image is from an Elsevier blog article. I should add at the end, I have a recommended reading list if anybody is interested in it. So what is an omni-channel journal? We as marketers, we're trained to think about the funnel. Awareness, consideration, purchase, loyalty, advocacy. And what I would say is in theory, the funnel still exists, but the truth is it's much more like this image on the right. It's not as linear as we once thought it was. And that's particularly true for author submission, right? If someone's marketing to me to buy a pair of shoes, you know, and they're successful, I can buy that pair of shoes today. For an author, they may not be ready to publish, right? They may get the marketing, they may feel like it's a great journal, they may be excited in publishing, but maybe they're 4 months away from being able to publish because of where they are in the research process. So, you know, it's a very sort of windy kind of journey. And AI really helps us understand where the person is in their journey when it's not so simple and linear. And what we are seeing is publishers, and this is another image from another marketing tech company, looking at author funnels. I would say most of the large publishers are pretty sophisticated in this. You know, how do we know that it's a new author? That's awareness. And what are the messages we might want to show that person? Maybe it's general brand values. Maybe it's tips on how to publish. And then really thinking about that funnel through to submission. And then we start thinking about, can we start calculating the average time between when an author submits an article and when they're ready to submit again? And how do we message to them to try to get them to submit again with us? We're seeing publishers play with that, and I would say some of the bigger publishers are pretty sophisticated there. But it's also other funnels. You can foster email sign up. How do you get someone to subscribe to your content alert when they're not? Maybe even my account. As you know, we have notorious low my account signups in our industry. For publishers that sell subscriptions, funnels to subscriptions are really important. For other publishers, they're trying to sell professional development products, and people are thinking about those funnels. What's the information somebody needs to engage with before they decide that they're going to hit the buy button and put the professional development product in their cart? Assess, and I would say these tools also really help assess with life cycle performance. Like, when are people dropping off? Why are they dropping off? What is conversion? What segment is converting? What segment is not? Marketing performance optimization, basically testing at scale. A/B, multivariant. Are we testing messages, images, etc.? ML-driven analytics. You know, again, understanding touch points and attribution. When somebody submits to a journal, what worked? Was it the webinar? Was it the marketing message? Was it the editorial outreach? Really putting some science behind what worked so you can do more of it. And then ad spend optimization. And what we're seeing here, I'd say that this is a little more in its infancy, but we are starting to see people trying to analyze the content and campaigns that are impacting author submission. But we're seeing a lot of people really think about like message libraries. Messaging has completely changed, or messaging will completely change in this new world. You need to know how to build messaging for AI. You need to how to build messaging for testing, which means messaging is really, really micro-segmented. And you need organization and classification systems to do that. And we're seeing some people start to do that. And then generative content. So generative content just means the AI is creating the content for us, whether it is the first draft or it's taking our first draft and making it better. I don't know how many people use AI today, but I often put my writing in AI to see if they can make it a little bit crisper. It can be incredibly helpful in the creative process. So this is text generation, graphic design, image creation, music composition, video generation, voice synthesis, chatbots. All of this is under the generative AI. And you can see on the right, there are just tons, looks like from this image, maybe 100 or so technologies that are just popping up to help marketers with generative AI. And I'd say this is also in its infancy in our industry, but what we're seeing is people thinking about messaging libraries as messaging prompts for AI. So we used to think that the value maybe was in crafting the content, the writing of the content. The value is really moving to the ability to structure messaging and to understand how to really think about like values and empathy, so that if you prompt an AI tool, it can help you create the right messaging. We're seeing people reducing their graphic design budgets by using AR supported design creation. We are seeing people think about lay summaries for articles. And then chatbots on websites to answer basic questions. And what I would say, these are really early days. You can imagine many more use cases here, particularly around content marketing creation, web pillar pages, topic collections, and social media. As marketers, this makes my head spin. I can see just all the things we do today that are incredibly time consuming that can be automated. And so it's a lot. What do we do? So I think it's going to really shape the skills we need in our marketing team. Our marketing teams are going to change. It will eliminate some roles, but it will also add others. And I think there's no point in fearing it, because it's here. It's not just coming, it's here. And so the secret is learning how to embrace it as a tool. And I happen to like these two cartoons. The one on the top left, the person is saying, can't we just use artificial intelligence to manage our sales funnel for us? And the little AI is saying, I found a place that sells funnel cakes close to you. And the one on the bottom is somebody saying, I want communication that is human, empathetic, real. So go have the AI generate that. And I think what both of these show is what this wonderful headline from Harvard Business Review says: AI won't replace humans, but humans that use AI will replace humans that don't use AI, if that makes sense. And so it's a bandwagon that we all have to get on. So first thing I would say is generative AI needs marketing magic. It is not smart enough to create the content and images we need. It's only as good as the prompts you put in. It lacks nuance, it lacks context, it lacks creativity. It can also reflect biases and stereotypes from training data. You've got to review and edit it, and you've got to risk inadvertent plagiarism. AI is not replacing design, but it's helping designers be much more creative. Designers are thinking about templates. It may automate basic design, but it's freeing up times for designers to think about the design that really, really matters. Maybe our websites. The same is true for copy. It's automating writing, but it's not automating precision. And it's not automating the relationship we know that we have with our customers. And so our best tips for what to do here is, you need to have core message libraries that speak to your brand and product values. You need to be thinking about the structure you need to leverage the AI tools. You should be testing tons of different tools. You can talk to 100 marketers. They have differences. When it comes to design, I think Canva's the best. Personal choice. You may like others. It's a great place to experiment with, and it's not incredibly expensive. On the content generation side, I like Jasper, but again, you talk to 100 marketers, they'll have 100 different tools that they like. You can get monthly subscriptions, you can get free trials. Experiment. Always be honest about authorship. If you have AI writes a blog post, that's fine, but try a disclosure like this article is written with the assistance of generative AI. I'm not talking about something where you ask them to help you construct a sentence you've written, but literally where it's creating some of the content in a blog. To really focus on change management, teams need training and support. The fear is that this generative AI is going to take away the roles of your copywriters and your designers and your message creators. They need to be upskilled in how to meet AI, how to really think a little bit differently, how to help with efficiency. And there's an awful lot of change management required to help teams think through this. And marketing needs to champion creativity, individual and collective. There's some wonderful research out from Boston Consulting Group. When you look at productivity, AI is improving it significantly. When you look at creativity, it's reducing it significantly. There is a real risk that we lose individuality, creativity, if all we do is rely on AI. And marketing, I think, can be a really important champion of creativity, individually, collective within their organizations. You do need to look at your marketing technology stacks to see if they give you the capabilities that you need in this new world. This includes some of the cheap and cheerful generative content AI tools, as well as some of the more kind of sophisticated tools. Avoid shiny new toy system. Everything needs to be anchored in business value. It's never, ever, ever just about the technology. It is about the strategy and the skills. We as marketers know this. We could buy every piece of technology out there, and if we don't know how to use it, it's just going to sit in the shelf. The rates of MarTech failure are staggering, and that's because organizations invest in the technology, but not the strategy and skills. Data and security is really, really important in all of this. And I think, how organizations use customer and user data in this new AI world, beyond what the law requires, obviously we're all going to follow the law, but we have decisions to make about our brand and customer experience. And, what are we going to allow, right? If we're going to have AI models, are they fully transparent? What kind of opt-ins are we going to ask for? What are we going to do? What do we think is appropriate for our brand? And we need to make sure we're not creating echo chambers that alienate segments, right? It's easy in an AI world to keep recommending the same thing. You have to sort of think through that. Also, you need to use the right tools. Again, we talked about this sort of before, but AI is really, really helpful in creative product innovation. So it hurts creativity, but when you want to actually create the content output, the blog article, the web page, the social media post, it's super, super good. But it's not currently very good at business problem solving. So again, you have to really understand the tool and its application. And we always recommend for marketing technology, you start with a use case inventory. What is it you're trying to achieve? and why? What are the business values? That's what I like to call the size of the prize, which is just a fancy way of saying business case. What capabilities do you have today versus the capabilities you want, and match those to those use cases? And what are the skills and change management you need to support that? Once you decide that, you need to figure out what the right vendor mix is. Some of those will require RFIs or proof of concepts if they're really expensive and big technology, lots of integration. If they're things that you can get with free trials, just try them. And then, roll out really agilely and keep testing. And then this one is probably the most important one to me. Have a seat at the table. Marketing is really, really important in organizations. In many organizations, it's the CMO and it is the head of technology that are driving the AI agenda. It is important that the marketing leaders in our industry have a seat at that table, advocating for what they need in the function to advance AI. What is your strategy? What is your roadmap? Talk with leaders about how you see marketing's role in the AI revolution in your organization and where that fits in priorities. And you need, of course, to partner really close with people in digital or technology and publishing. Always be business case and evidence-based. Everything should tie back to the financial return you're going to get. More authors, increased efficiency, etc. And then I think marketing can play a really important role and be an advocate in the organization for the safe, responsible use of data. We talked about this before, but I believe marketing owns the heart of the customer, is the voice of the customer, is the advocate of the customer. And I think how we use data is going to be really important in how the customer experiences our brand. Be they a reader, be they an author, be they a purchaser. Be an advocate for reskilling and retraining teams. I include a link in here from one of my favorite clients, a company called Generation, that spends a lot of time on skilling people up, and just had a really interesting piece of research on mid-career researchers, mid-career employees, and some of the fears around reskilling them. People can be reskilled, right? I think it's really important to think about the talent, the shape of the team you want to have, and what is the reskilling agenda. And just creativity and human empathy and messaging. This is a little quote from the brief that just went out talking about social media, which I think will largely be AI, except for the authentic human voices pieces that need to come out of it, right? And I think we as marketers need to constantly champion where we need as a brand to be empathetic, to be sort of authentic, right? We are not marketing to machines. We are marketing to human beings, and they care about those soft skills. And then if anyone was interested, I have a little recommended reading list. And that was the end of the presentation, which hopefully I'll have time for questions. I'll stop sharing. Okay. So thank you. Hand up. Kim?
There. That was really good, Colleen. I loved that. It was so interesting. A little bit overwhelming, if I'm honest. I feel quite overwhelmed. But one of the things that I really struggle with as a marketeer is, that slide that you had up, omni-channel journey. Yeah. And, we all talk about the funnel, and it was really well depicted by that big circle with all those different touch points. And currently within our organization, we have a lot of single-use tools. So we use Salesforce for email, we use Hootsuite for social media, and the list goes on. And I don't have a single customer view of what one customer is doing across all those different touch points. So how would you recommend getting that single customer view? What is the best approach to take? And I'd also like to hear from the other people on this call. Do you feel the same? Can you confidently say you've got a one customer view of all those touch points, or are you also like me on the journey and still using a lot of single-use tools in marketing?
So a lot in that question, a really excellent question. So thank you for asking it. I think the first thing I would say is single customer view is not a use case, it's a goal. And so what's really important is to know the use cases and the data you need to serve. I think sometimes what I see is organizations get caught up in the single customer view, and that can be really, really, really hard in every piece of data you need to obtain. But for the vast majority of the marketing use cases that you're likely to prioritize, you can get enough of the data you need to get enough of a single customer view to do a really good job. We just worked with a client and got it in 3 months. Okay. So that's the first point. Second point is, and this is controversial and never fun to hear. Yeah, the marketing tech tools of olden days aren't working so well for the new world. And so you do need to really look at your marketing technology tools afresh. Some of it could be plugging in something that helps connect all those disparate tools. But what we find sometimes is when you do that, you also look at those endpoint tools. And there might be more modern, cheap and cheerful. So it's a phrase I picked up at Oxford that I've kept. Cheap and cheerful tools that you can kind of use. But yes, there are ways to connect the data. And if you are disciplined by your use cases, it doesn't have to be an incredibly multi-year daunting journey at all.
Thanks, Colleen.
Welcome, Stephanie.
Yeah, I was going to jump in and add to that question too. Is, you know, in the last couple of years, we've been on that journey of trying to get that single customer view. And I just kept, you know, thinking of the expression, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Because, you know, we got a CDP basically, which would bring all the data together. But of course, you add one and then you have to get that right. You add another piece. And so you slowly add the data points. And then what we found is we had to it allowed a lot of automation having that single view, because then we can say, okay, if a person does XYZ things, send them this email. If they do this, show them this ad or whatever. But of course, it means that we had to go back through our website and tag all the content that we didn't have tagged properly. And, you know, so as we went, you know, it's been a long journey, because it makes you have to upskill a lot of things along the way as well. But it's definitely been worth it. I think, you know, a lot of us work in small marketing teams. I've been, you know, 1 to 2 people for years. And so what it's allowed me to do is automate so much more, which allows me to get so much more done. So for me, it's been the best thing that we've done. So it's definitely a worthy goal.
I think that's a really good point, Stephanie. And I think it also plays kin to the overwhelming point. Yeah, there's a million one things you can do here. Start with your use cases. Start with your use cases. What's the most important thing? And that will lead you to a path of, I always say this is a marketing transformation. It takes several years. It'll probably never be done thanks to the world of technology. You know, if you stay disciplined with sort of your use cases and road mapping and iterating, you can take one bite of the elephant at a time.
And Stephanie, what tool are you using to get that automation?
So we're using Hum, which we have a close relationship with anyway. They're ones that are, you know, there's a lot of different CDPs around. For us, it's been nice because A, they're specifically designed for scholarly publishers, but B, because they're kind of still in startup mode, we can be like, hey, we'd like it to do this. And they're like, okay, we'll build that. So that's kind of handy. You don't get that with some tools. So it's been nice to kind of tweak it for our needs. There's a little bit of flexibility there.
And I would say customer data platforms in general are a good tool usually to do that. But there's also kind of the data lake and data warehouse question that you need to think through. I mean, at the end of the day, the tool selection is a combination of the type of organization you have, your current technology, and your use cases. We work with a myriad of clients, and rarely do they come out with different tool answers because they have different goals or different sort of businesses. But yes, Hum is great, and we've seen that. I see Rory. I know Rory's a Hum customer on the call. There are others, I'm sure, but there are a myriad of tools that can sort of do the job for you, I think, in that kind of space, and Hum is certainly a good one. Ed, word?
Oh, yeah, Ross from Teller and Francis,
Ross?
thank you. Very interesting. I just wondered what you'd found around publishers' appetite for risk in terms of copyright, because I think we're different than other industries, and I think the risk profile is around losing control of our own copyright more than it is infringing others, particularly when you might want to enter some copyrighted material into the models to get an answer. How have you find publishers' risk appetite around that, and what sort of solutions? Because I think everything you've said, I think lots of nods, and I can see lots of conversations, probably not with our tech team, but with our legal teams around those risk profiles.
Yeah, I think 2-3 years ago, I was seeing a lot of resistance. If I gave any kind of presentation about behavioral data, first I had to really explain what it was, which I don't have to do anymore, so that's good. People are all getting it. And inevitably there would be 3 or 4 people that would sort of say, but privacy, but privacy. Now there's usually just one. So it's definitely sort of lessened. Yeah, we're very, very conservative. I would say in almost every instance, publishers are stricter than the letter of the law. And I would say I don't often see, I'm going to rephrase that. I would like to see marketing having a stronger seat at that table. Sometimes I feel like the marketing voice isn't as strong as it should be around those kind of decisions. But yes, I would say in general, we are risk averse, 100%, but it's changing.
But if I could also add to that, Edward, at CP, what we've done is we've created a skin of ChatGPT. So it is ChatGPT, except it's a Cambridge version, so that anything that we put into the tool isn't being put into ChatGPT. So it keeps our information private. And I don't think it costs us anything. So you can use a paid version, but that option is available to you. So I see lots of nodding. So lots of people doing their own version of that.
Yeah, it's a really, really, really good thought, and really important. Yeah.
Right, I'm just conscious of time. We've got 3 minutes left. There was one question earlier on in the chat, and I don't want to miss that. How will AI change the KPIs we use as marketers? For example, if answers will be provided at point of search rather than website visits.
Yeah, I mean, I think our KPIs in general are changing for many of us because of our business models. But I think the kind of KPIs are probably going to be moving towards our engagement scores. How engaged are potential authors? How engaged are our readers? Propensity scores. How many people are likely to convert? How many people are we getting in that meet our ideal customer profile? I think they're going to be more engagement and predictive than they've been before. I think most organizations, not all, have kind of moved away from what I can see as website traffic as kind of that high level metric, and are really thinking about the metrics that more indicate the things we need to have happen, right? If it's institutional subscriptions, authorship, whatever our business models are, we're seeing a lot of refinement and change around the core KPIs of marketing teams already without AI.
Okay, well, thank you very much. As we draw this engaging discussion on AI and machine learning trends in marketing to a close, I'd like to express our gratitude to our speaker, Colleen. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and expertise with us today. It's been great. I personally definitely learned loads. I'm going to rewatch the session. And thank you to all who joined us today. Your active participation, questions and comments, it's been great, and really made the conversation exciting. So the exchange ideas hopefully won't stop here. We have a Slack channel. Please visit the channel regularly. We're going to set up further events quarterly and consult you on any other topics you might want to discuss. And yes, we also looking for, I just wanted to give a shout out, we're also looking for some volunteers to join co-chairing the group. So if you enjoyed this and you would like to be a bit more involved, please shout out. You can message me or Kin directly, and we can have a conversation. And once again, thank you so much, Colleen, for your outstanding presentation, and thank you for all for your active participation. And let's keep the momentum going and work together, so we can, you know, push marketing to a new dimension. So I look forward to seeing you all in future events and continuing the journey, and have a great day.
Thanks
Thank you so
Sita.
much.
Thanks,
And we'll
Colleen.
send the recommended reading list so you can
Bye.
share it.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.